It's how I,
Yeah, I've reluctantly moved over to it from Skype, but I've
sure.
accepted now that
Yeah.
I was just clinging on to Skype like an old person. Um, right, okay. I think we are good. So, Dark Bleatings, everybody. Welcome back to another author creator interview Sunday. I'm really, really excited because today we have Tyler J. Welch, who, if you follow any of my reviews, you will have seen me going on and on about since his debut, Endrealm, and now recently Skybreaker has come out. So, welcome and thank you for being here, Tyler.
Thank you very much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.
So the first thing I have to say to you, and it's not so much a question, it's just how dare you? And I think I wrote this in both of my reviews so far. So End Realm was your debut novel, and I kept forgetting it was your debut as I was reading it because it's too good for a debut. I just kept writing in my little notebook as I was, keeping track for review purposes. I just kept writing, "How dare you?" in the review. So we may as well start talking about End Realm first. Would you like to tell people a little bit about yourself and a little bit about End Realm for those who are uninitiated?
Sure, yeah. I am Tyler Welch. I hail from Southeast Wisconsin. Um, I have it pop up on my screen, unfortunately, whatever that means. Sorry about that. Yeah, I hail from Southeast Wisconsin. And geez, I'm a dark fiction author, I guess. What else could I tell you? I like long walks on the beach, but only when the sun's down and it's nothing but darkness outside, because that's when, the monsters and the scaries come out.
Yeah.
Um, End my debut, I guess what I usually tell people about it is your main character finds themselves in the afterlife with no recollection of who they are, and pretty soon they realize that they may have a spouse who could be still alive, could be somewhere in the afterlife, um, and they're pretty much hell bent on finding them because they don't know much about themselves, but they do have this like they're aware of this core value of theirs that they promise themselves to that person, and they'll be damned if they're not going to get back to them one way or another. So it's basically this character's journey through the depths of hell and yeah, the afterlife.
Yeah, it was I found it quite unputdownable, and there's such obviously I'm a very horror leaning, but there is a great mixture of genre and subgenre that you included. So I'm sure there are some people are very pedantic about what they would class as horror. I would put this in a horror category for me because of hell and your depictions of it. And then also the journey of the protagonist. Like, that's quite a hellish scenario to be in if you don't know who you are and you don't know if you deserve to be where you find yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Um, that was an element I really enjoyed. And then there's a lot of really dark fantasy elements in this and mythology and everything. So I felt like the storytelling was really layered and really deep. And I have to know what your starting point for this story was.
Ooh, starting point for the story. Well, I'm a pantser, so there was never a plot per se. I mean, I knew where I knew where I wanted or thought the story would go. And I think that's generally how I work is whether I start with like just the idea of a character or a problem or an atmosphere. I, I I generally have a little bit of an idea of where it would be cool if it ended up, but I never write anything in stone. Um, and I always allow myself the room to whatever happens, happens. If we end up in the last chapter and it's where I think it'd be cool that it ends, then great. If
Mhm.
not, then well, hell, that's even better. It's like opening up like I don't know a pack of Magic cards or Pokemon cards or something. Like it's a surprise. It's a gamble. You don't know where things are going to go, and so I did know that I wanted to write a story about th this one man's loyalty or this one character's loyalty, and also I wanted to play around with the idea that you kind of alluded to this a little bit. The idea that he doesn't really know if he deserves to be in because he starts off in like the lowest circle of
Mhm.
the end realm, the afterlife, right? And he does find himself questioning like, what if I did do some really terrible shit
Mhm.
while I was in the living world and while I was alive? Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. And he kind of fights with that a little bit. And I also thought it would be a really cool idea that maybe the reader never knows this. I mean, maybe he doesn't find out, or maybe he gets little bits and pieces, maybe not. But how cool would it be to for the reader to get to the end of the story and not even know if this guy's really a good guy or like, how did he end up here? Um, was he Jeffrey Dahmer? I mean, who knows, I guess. And I thought that was cool. And the other big piece of it for me was the amalgamation of all these mythos.
Mhm.
So, uh, I'm very hardcore agnostic. I
Mhm.
wouldn't consider myself an atheist or anything else. Um, but I am agnostic. I do have a I'm betting that when we die, we end up in the ground
Mhm.
and we're worm food, and then in 8 million years, the sun swallows the earth and we're spit back out into stardust. And I mean, how beautiful is that, right?
Very rock and roll. I quite like the the image of that.
Yeah. Um, So what I wanted to do was I wanted this afterlife to be just everything. I didn't want it to be just, Catholicism. I didn't
Mhm.
want it to be just Greek mythos. I wanted a mixture of everything and unfortunately, I didn't even get a chance to touch on like all the extra ones that I wanted to. But yeah, I wanted it to feel like, okay, you start off like, oh, this is Greek mythology. This is the underworld. And then all of a sudden you're slammed with, an archangel
Mhm.
from the Bible. And then you're hit with a couple other, tales and mythos. And that was really important to me because, we have all of these stories, we have all of these religions, and they all think the same thing. They think like this is the one way. But
Mhm.
when there's 200, 300 thousands of religions, I'm sorry, man, but like the chances you're telling me that the chances of you picking the right one is right? Like,
Yeah, I really liked the melding of those things in the book. And I know that there are thousands more you could have included, but for the sake of it just being one volume that you could actually read, probably good that you stuck to a few. But I really enjoyed that because I don't have a religion. I don't believe in any gods. But I'm very interested in religion, and I went through this patch of just researching and reading the books of all of the major world religions, and I did notice that there are I'm sure that this will annoy people who are religious, but there are some crossover characters, and there are definitely some crossover ideas and systems, and they're very similar, a lot of them, and so I really liked that you brought in elements of several different things. Um, because it felt more unifying. Like for humanity, like no matter what you believe in. I mean, it's not
yeah.
nice if you end up in the end realm. in the lower circles, but um, it was quite leveling. I found that idea and
Yeah.
interesting. Um, I can't believe that you pants. So for anyone who doesn't know the difference between plotting and pantsing, um, a plotter will typically plot their novel. So they might write an outline, and some people get really detailed and they'll do like a chapter by chapter or like a an act outline or whatever. And then pantsers typically kind of make it up as they go along and then, tighten it up later. And I was sure that you must have sort of meticulously plotted this story when I was reading it.
No, uh, there's reasons for that, I think. It just so I'll probably get some flack for this. But I consider myself pretty damn lazy. Um, that being said, my friends and my wife will say like when I'll say something like, oh, I feel like I'm wasting my time right now, like relax sitting on the couch for like 15 minutes not doing anything. And they'll say I'm not lazy, but there is a style of lazy that Tyler is. And um, that is one of the reasons why I don't plot. Like if I spend an hour plotting or a couple hours like making a character sheet and like a world sheet and all this stuff, oh my God, that seems so daunting. And then you know, by the time I'm done with it, one, I'm not going to want to write the damn story because I just spent 15 hours of my life writing a plot.
Hmm.
And also, if I know exactly what's going to happen in the story, uh, this is, I guess, kind of selfish of me, but it is selfish. But if I know what's going to happen, then there's no reason for me to write it. It's kind of like a book. Like if I go to a Wikipedia page and I find out what happens in the movie or the book, uh, I'm not going to watch it.
Hmm.
Why? Part of reading for me is, the guesswork, the reading it, falling in love with the world and the characters, and then like constantly having my mind going like, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, I bet this is going to happen, and just trying to like piece it together too and figure it out.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, that's what I like about writing. So if I know what's going to happen, that sucks. I'm not interested in
I
that.
completely understand, and I'm sure if there are people watching or listening to this, and they're not writers, they're readers but not writers, I think that that will probably sound really weird. But I'm completely with you on that. Um, I realized that I couldn't plot and still be interested in my own story if I had to put that much. If I have to think about it that much and I've told myself in meticulous detail the whole story before I've actually written it, I kind of lose the drive to write it. And I realized that when I was still in university studying script writing, and we were told like you have to plot, you have to hand in plot outlines and things like this. And but then I found out that we didn't have to hand any of that stuff in until the whole project was handed in. So I just did my script. And obviously you change things on your redrafts and stuff, but I just wanted to I had like an idea of where it would go, but I just kind of wanted to see where it would go and how I'd get there. And then afterwards he was like, "Oh yeah, you've handed your script in. What about all of the plot work and the script, the scene breakdowns?" And I was like, "Oh shit." So I had to go back and just like protect. I had to write some things in there that I didn't do in the script to make it look like I'd planned stuff and then change my mind.
Sure, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, I actually I do envy people who can plot like that though, because I think if you can, it must make the actual writing process a bit easier because you're less likely to get stumped on things. But I just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure for the people who do that,
Mhm.
it does make it easier.
Yeah.
But for the pantsers, it makes it harder. And it's really interesting to me how like there's like I mean, there's no one way to write. Like we all do it
Mhm.
differently. But there is this fork, and it's only like two ways, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the pantser and then it's the plotter.
Mhm.
And generally, like if a pantser has to plot for some reason, which I've heard does happen. Like sometimes in trad publishing, like you'll have, your publisher say like, yeah, throw us an outline. I mean, before we give you the aces, we want to know what it actually is. And
Mhm.
that, I mean, damn, that would be an absolute nightmare for me. But
Yeah. I know a traditionally published author who I would just say the name of, but I can't remember if they've said this online or if they've just said this at in-person events. But they said that the publisher always wants an outline complete with ending, so he just gives that to them and then forgets about it completely when once they start doing the book. So I thought that was
awesome.
really funny. I just noticed your excellent t-shirt, by the way. Just wanted
Oh,
to
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
excellent t-shirt. Um, we will move on. I guess I have to talk to you about Skybreaker as well, because you've just released that. But just before we get there, what kind of stuff do you like to read and watch? Well, what's your sort of like jam option?
So as far as reading goes, it is a little, I like to say it's a little bit of everything with reading, movies, and music, but
Mhm.
um and I do stray to different things. However, again, I like to say that, but it's just not necessarily the truth. Like 95% of the time I'm listening to either new metal, deathcore, death metal, stuff like that.
Mhm.
If I'm reading, it's generally horror or fantasy. And a lot of the times, if it isn't horror, I find the horror in it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And yeah, and I guess that kind of like leads me into almost, I guess that's a whole different discussion on like genre.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Genre is kind of like I don't like the word. Like I know we
Mhm.
need it, but that's a whole different genre is a whole different spiel. But yeah, generally it's horror or dark fantasy or fantasy. And again, if when it's not, I usually get, a bit into the book and I'm like, dude, this isn't, this is horror. Like this is a
Mhm.
horror novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, movies would be the same way. So like, man, I really love some like hardcore epic fantasy like Game of Thrones, Tolkien stuff, um, sci-fi for sure, like Alien, Predator,
Mhm.
Terminator, all that jazz. Um, yeah, I would have to say, as far as the horror that I do like, um, I tend to, I'll probably get a little bit of flack or some eye rolls from this, but I don't like campy stuff or like slashers.
Mhm.
Um, but stuff like The Black Coat's Daughter, that's probably my fucking favorite film of all time.
You are my brother from another mother. I can't believe you just said that. No one has seen that film, and that is my favorite film.
Oh, I know it's so good. Like
So good.
that's a whole discussion, right? Like you watch it and you're like, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. And
Mhm.
then you watch it like a day later or a week later, and you find 10 different things, and you're like, this is this is just pristine stuff right here. Osgood
Yeah.
Perkins, you are the absolute man. And then, you talk to somebody about it like 2 years later, you watch it
Mhm.
with them, and then like while you're watching it, you're like, bro, you better pay attention, right?
Yeah,
And then like even that fifth time you're watching it, you're still picking stuff up. It's amazing. Yeah.
I have been recommending that film at every opportunity to everyone that will listen to me, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I haven't got around to it yet," and I'm like, I need someone to talk about it with for years." Um, yeah, that's those are very similar horror tastes to you, and the genre thing gets on my nerves. I'm forever going on rants about how things are under, especially in films. I find this more often than not, but when something is undeniably horror fiction, but then it gains some sort of mainstream popularity, so now it's rebranded as a dark thriller or so that it annoys me all the time. Like just call it what it is and let's appreciate. Let's appreciate it for what it is. Do not
Yeah.
tell me that Misery isn't a horror film. Don't tell me that The Silence of the Lambs can't reasonably be described as horror. That's about one guy that eats people and another guy that wears their skin and stuff. Come on. Um, yeah, I did 'cause from your writing, I did assume that your fiction tastes as a consumer of fiction would be horror and fantasy because you blend things so seamlessly in your work. So like I whenever I'm recommending your books to people, I say horror fans and fantasy fans. I think with fantasy fans who like some stuff that's a bit on the dark side. But yes, so let's talk about Skybreaker because I'm really excited about that. So that's a novella, and do you want to tell people a little bit about that one?
Ooh, this is a little harder because I didn't write like a little quick cover blurb for it because
Mhm.
it's a novella. It's short. It's like 100 pages or less. And I don't like giving stuff away, and like it's only like 90 pages, and yeah, like I just want people to just experience it.
Mhm.
But and thankfully, man, some of the blurbs that it got like really just said enough about it that I'm like, sweet, I don't even have to write anything. I'm just gonna throw a couple of
Yeah.
these on the covers. But yeah, it's about a Maya or Mayan civilization that knows that a solar eclipse is coming. Um, and they believe that this eclipse is going to have the moon's intention is to stop in front of the sun and to not continue on its trajectory,
Mhm.
which would obviously be you know, the end of plant life, animal life, all that stuff, and their way of life. So, the way that they are going to prevent this from happening is they're going to um, have a blood sacrifice and a large tribal ceremony to uh, invoke this god from the sky that they call the Skybreaker, and the
Mhm.
Skybreaker is going to push the moon back on its trajectory. And it is a story about um, believing in something um, that isn't true. It is about it is about a guile, just
Mhm.
something beguiling, and there's so much more to it. Because by the end of the novel, I hope that my hope and the message of the story when I wrote it was definitely that of worship is very powerful. Like religion is very powerful, and religion has slaughtered millions and millions of people. Like most
Mhm.
wars are about, religion to some degree or another.
Mhm.
And that's what I wrote it about. However, now I'm thinking about it more and more the last handful of months here. And, this dark one that is I don't want to give too much away, but there is, I mean, shit doesn't go as planned
Yeah.
in the Mayan civilization, right? And there is a dark god or dark entity that is in this story. And yeah, the last handful of months, I've just been kind of thinking to myself, man, that could be, I mean, that's kind of what Hitler did. It's pretty damn close. Beguiling and just lying is pretty damn close to, if not exactly what's happening in other places of the world. It is a it is a deep story. It was deep when I wrote it, and I'm so grateful that it's becoming more deeper.
Mhm.
There's just a lot to it, and that's the type of story that I always want to write. I always want to write a story that, is somewhat ambiguous throughout and in the ending, so people can, you know, think about it and find things in it and find the world, our
Mhm.
world in the story, um, and hopefully it has some sort of, for the readers that read it, hopefully it has some sort of um, lifelong lesson or
Mhm.
moral that stays with them.
Well, this is another thing that I really enjoy about your writing, because it is, like I said earlier, layered, and your characters are thought-provoking, and your themes are as well. Because um, I really enjoy any horror fiction that brings any kind of religion in, because I'm so fascinated with um the kinds of things that people will do and the extremes people will go to, regardless of whether or not the thing is actually real. It's their belief in whatever it is that will drive them. And so I always find that fascinating. And with End Realm, it was undeniable because we were in the afterlife. So it wasn't just like, oh, he's imagining the whole thing or anything, because we were there. And it was really, your writing is really cinematic as well, by the way. That's another thing I love, because I can see it all playing out like a movie, and it's just so much fun. And it was extra fun in Skybreaker, because if ever there was a payoff in the final act, it was in this. I was reading this, like, I tried to think of something that I had the same sort of reaction to that I watched. Something like the kind of reaction that you have when with the kind of carnage you see in like Evil Dead or something. I was just reading, just like, because I didn't know what kind. There were several directions you could have gone in, and I had no idea where you were actually gonna go with it. And it was just, it was I don't know if this makes me a bit demented or something, but it was just so much fun. Um, as a horror fan to read. Um, it's really horrific, but I just, yeah, it was really satisfying. That's not horror. When people read it, they'll know why I feel weird about saying that.
Sure, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
but yeah, and I have been thinking about it since I read it, and thanks to you, I did get to read it quite early, because I got an advanced copy, and then I was there messaging you like, when's it coming out? Because I wanted to start talking about it. Um,
Yeah,
um, Yeah, so you're you're quite early in terms of publishing your work. How long have you been
yeah.
just writing always though?
No.
Unbelievable.
So uh yeah, so I was a big I've always been in the arts.
Hmm.
So in some way, shape, or form throughout my life. I was a big reader when I was younger. Like I read a lot of like I have very early memories of me like reading tons of like the Boxcar Children and stuff
Oh,
like that.
oh,
And
yeah.
then I, which is not horror at all. But I just remember liking those characters a lot, and I can't even remember how old I was. Very very young, but reading on my own, obviously, because those are like little chapter books. And then I started reading a lot of Goosebumps, and I really fell in love with that stuff a lot. And I grew up, watching like Alien and Predator and stuff with my
Hmm.
father. And so like the Goosebumps stuff, all the monsters and shit, that was just like right up my alley. And then I started reading some fantasy stuff like some Robert E. Howard,
Hmm.
Conan the Barbarian, stuff like that. And I would say when I'm guessing I'm super bad with like memory and dates, but I'm guessing I was probably 14 or 15. I kind of just fell off of reading because I was a punk teenage boy like out on skateboards and causing trouble and all that stuff. And I kind of got out of reading for a while, but during that time, I was really heavy into music. I played guitar in a handful of bands, one of them, which I did do, a fair amount of like shows with, just like regional touring kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And all through that, I didn't really read much. Then I would say the time I was 25, 24, 25, I started reading some more fantasy. Um, and I'm like, wow, this is great. Like, I love this. Like, why did I like put this stuff away so
Hmm.
much? And yeah, just kind of like been back in it since. When did I start writing? So in high school, I cannot remember her name for the life of me, and I was metalhead punk. I never wanted a yearbook. I don't have a yearbook to look back on it, but I had this English teacher, I want to say like my sophomore year. She ended up getting fired for getting caught smoking marijuana. I don't know if it was on campus or not, but she basically got canned for doing drugs. And but she was really cool, and she was like I said, my English teacher, if I hadn't said that already. And we had poetry as part of the course, and I was writing poetry. It was all like lyrics, basically songwriting. That was right up my alley. And I'm just doing my assignments, and I'm gonna be really honest with you, like I'm just doing my assignments, right? Like I'm not really pouring my heart into them. And I remember her coming up to me like, or after class saying like, Tyler, like these three poems that you just handed in last week are phenomenal. Like, have you ever thought about publishing them? And 16-year-old me is like, what? Like, I'm too busy with my guitar, lady. Like
Yeah.
what is publishing? What is that, Um, and that was it. I mean, like the writing that I did in high school was, I mean, here I am, trying to make myself, you know, and continue going with my authorship and stuff. But in high school, it wasn't there. Like I was writing because I had to. I had to get at least a D in that class. That was that was my goal, right? Um, but I even back then in high school, I did have the idea for a novel.
Mhm.
Um, and I did think, every once in a while I would think, and I remember saying to like my best friend Garrett at the time, like, man, it'd be pretty badass to write a book. Like,
Mm.
I got this idea, man, and that idea was was a man trapped in hell trying to get out to get back to his wife.
Mhm.
So that, when I started, really trying to like dabble in writing 7 years ago. I mean, Enron took me probably 5 years.
Mhm.
When I really started to like push my writing and decide like, no, dude, like you're like 36 years old or whatever, like your life's almost over. You're gonna die soon. Like if you're gonna do this,
Come
you got
on
you
now.
got you got to do this, right? So I'm like, well, you've had that idea since you were, a teenager, man.
Mm.
Roll with it. Even if it's been done before, whatever the hell, like roll with it, do it. So yeah, as far as like writing goes, I'm forgetting the question because I'm rambling like crazy.
No,
But
no, it's good. I just asked how long you've been writing.
got it. So yeah, how long have I been writing? 7 years, and I would say 5 years of that. The first 5 years of that was End Realm. The first draft was absolute, horse. You know what? Uh, I'm I'm betting. So I did pants all of End Realm, and there were like I think 16 or 17 drafts, but each draft was just me fixing how absolute dog pile my writing was. Like
Hmm.
it wasn't like fixing the plot or what happens in the book. It was like reading it back, and at first, probably the first five drafts were just me reading it back and realizing you can't, this isn't even a coherent sentence, bro. Like, this
God,
is trash.
that's wild to me because I think that your actual writing from a technical standpoint is really strong, and that's why I'm surprised that you haven't been just writing for like 20 years. But and you're saying a similar thing to what Adam Neville says, by the way. He redrafts and redrafts and redrafts because he said he basically ends up rewriting every single sentence because he doesn't like what he's done. And I was like, that's wild to hear from someone like Adam Neville. But yeah, so you're in good company with that kind of mind frame.
Oh, I
And
mean,
what have you
Adam
been?
Neville, I mean, the best company, right? That dude's a fucking genius, mastermind.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the best writers across any genre, full stop, in the entire world.
For
Um,
sure.
but yeah, but yes, my point is I think you're probably being a little bit hard on yourself when you're reading your own stuff, but also it's good to it's good to have a standard for yourself when you publish something rather than just like, oh, let me just get the book out
Yeah.
because it was such a good debut, not just because of the story, but because of your writing style and yeah, I just loved everything about your writing. And like I said, like I'm really jealous of it because I've been trying to write a that first novel for several years, and I've written and finished two, and then just thought this isn't the debut because it's absolute trash. And I can't, I can't, I
I
want
mean,
it has to be
that's
good.
yeah, I mean that is partially why End Realm took so long is
Mm,
because again, this is Tyler Lazy, right? Like
mm,
um I'm not gonna write a book. I'm not saying that those first two that you did that you did anything wrong. But for me personally, like I wrote End Realm and started rereading it back, and I'm like, this is not Tyler. This is not good. Like
mm.
you can't send this out to people. So I'd redo it, and then I'd redo it, and it's the lazy part of me that was like, just put this aside and start a new one because that's what everybody tells you to do, right? Everybody says your
Yeah.
first your first book is dumpster fire, man. Like get it done, write it, set it aside, start another one.
Hmm.
Rinse repeat until you get good. But I'm lazy like that. I'm not gonna write something and then not make it as good as I can. And it yeah, and Rome is kind of hard for me because I have a hard time reading that book. Like if I read a paragraph or something, or if I'm at a book signing and I'm doing like a short reading, I kind of hate it. I kind of like in my head, I'm like, oh, you should have set this aside. Like this is the book that this is the story that you've wanted to write since you were, 16, and it's not your best, right? And I'm sure it will always be that way for me, right? Like 5 years from now, I'll look at Skybreaker and I'll think the same damn thing, I'm sure. But um, yeah, it took a while to write Enro, man, and it was a lot of work. And I tried to get it, I tried to land an agent for it, and finally realized, I mean, that's a whole different world, right? And that's really difficult. You got to be
Yeah.
really good, and there's also a massive amount of luck involved in it. And I just kind of realized that, I don't want this to sit in a safe. I don't want this manuscript to sit in a safe for 10 years, 20 years and no one get to read it. Like the point of writing is to put it out in the world so somebody can hopefully get something from it, whether it's just
Yeah.
enjoyment or whether it's a life lesson or a morality thing that they find within it. So that's when I decided like this isn't going to sit around. I'm not going to let this sit around. Like get it as good as you possibly can, which I did do.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll give myself that much credit. Like it's not perfect by any means, and I'll always think that it needs work, but at least it's out there and it's not a manuscript in a safe, and that does make me happy.
Well, I don't think it's lazy to keep working on something until it's the best that you think it can. Like that is a lot of work to do that. And I don't know, I've had quite a bit of experience with agent pitching and because I've got to do, we're just over 50 author interviews now. So I've spoken to a lot of authors, like from indie and mainstream publishing. And the thing I've learned is it's not necessarily the best thing for you to get an agent straight away anyway, because it's not even just about how good you are, it's about what's trending in publishing right now and how well they think they can market you. And I've noticed a lot of agents will ask you if you published anything and they want to know what your sales are on. So basically, you kind of have to go to them with a fan base, is how I read it over time. And uh, so I don't know. Yeah, indie publishing, I think, used to be the thing that people did if they could get an agent, but now it's a really legitimate path you can take
Yeah.
instead. Um, because I've seen a lot of indie authors now getting their agents because they went and did it on their own. And then they
Sure.
start like and I'm sure that will happen. I'm sure that will happen for you because your writing is it, it belongs on the shelves with everyone that I read in mainstream publishing. I'm not just saying that to, you know, I never ask anybody on to this channel unless I actually really enjoy your work. And usually I ask people when I've read a lot more work by them. Like normally I don't have people as new to publishing as you on because I like to go through a back catalogue a little bit, but I had to ask you because I just really want people to pick up your books.
Well, I appreciate that. That is awesome to hear. I'm a like I'm a pretty humble dude, so like what I want to say to that is like, no, 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 I'm nowhere near that level. But I have to admit, you read a ton of books, so what you say, it does mean a lot. So
Oh,
it's awesome.
um,
Cat.
yeah, sorry, he's been here this whole time. Very disturbed that I'm not just staring directly at him.
Sure.
Um, it's too early to say for sure that this is sort of a trend I've noticed in your writing because we're only two books in. But so you described yourself as agnostic, but the religious themes are very strong. So what is it about religion that interests you so much that you want to like work it into your stories?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's kind of hard for me to answer because I kind of I kind of disagree with it. Like
Oh, go on.
I don't think. So that my current work in progress and a lot of my short stories like aren't don't have any religion like kind of like built into it or anything.
Mhm.
So God, how do I answer that? Yeah, I don't think that because yeah, I don't think it's like a go-to for me. I don't think that it's something that hmm, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I see what you're saying. Skybreaker is definitely,
Mhm.
within that realm, end realm for sure. Um I think if anything, like I do really enjoy the Greek mythos. Uh,
Mhm.
so there are, I would say that I do enjoy mythology as stories,
Mhm.
and I guess I always have. So there is that. That's probably what's bleeding through. But it's
Mhm.
funny you say it that way because and ask that question because I don't. I guess prior to you asking, like I didn't really think anything of that, because
Mhm.
I I'm definitely I don't like think to myself like, oh man, what afterlife or what mythos or what God are we gonna throw on this story?
Mhm.
That's not really something that goes through my mind. It's just these particular stories just happen to drive that way, I guess. And with
Yeah.
with Skybreaker, I guess, the moral that and metaphor of the story that I wanted it to be just going in was that of like how destructive worship can be. Uh,
Mhm.
so I guess that was the actual like driving force for that book. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, but it's definitely not something that you're gonna see in my next full-length novel for sure. And a lot of my
Ooh.
shorts and a lot of my shorts don't include that stuff either.
Okay. I think, well, maybe my focus was there because I would describe myself as an atheist, but I'm really interested in religious themes and especially, oh, sounds sadistic. I only enjoy this in a fictional setting. I can't stress that enough. But when the characters are like horrified by the thing they believe in and it all just starts being that, I don't know why that's so entertaining to me. Not in a really sadistic way, but just in a it's a horror gold mine. It
Yeah.
so and I think that's why I enjoy stories about cults as well because it doesn't matter if the thing is real because cults on their own, it's completely irrelevant to me if although I do prefer it if it turns out that the thing is real all along and it's evil.
Yeah.
But,
May- I guess, yeah, yeah, hearing you say that, maybe that is why, I guess, I do enjoy like that type of story.
Mhm,
I do consider myself very hardcore agnostic. Like it would take a lot to sway me into atheism, and
mhm,
it would actually take just as much to sway me into atheism as it would, some other religion.
mhm.
So maybe the idea, the reason I'm agnostic is because, well, I won't say that. Being agnostic makes me see religions and gods and mythos in a much different way than, uh, you know, they make me see that, view that in a very specific way. I guess I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
And that gives me the room to like, I guess, express that the reason why I'm agnostic in
Mhm,
in the books. In End Realm, that would um that would be shown as, the amalgamation of them all. Like, oh, it's I guess it's kind of my way of just, you guys are just, you know, wrong, maybe. Oh, I'm gonna get
yeah.
so much crap for saying that to certain people. But
Mm.
in End Realm, I'm like, screw this. I'm gonna take all of them and I'm just gonna ram them together.
Do you know, it reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you watch Supernatural, but there was this episode they're going with like the biblical God for a lot of that show, and then there's an episode in a hotel where like all of the gods are just gathered, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, they're acknowledging all of this as well. This is cool. That was I had that kind of moment in End Realm as well. It was really fun. Um, cool. Well, at this point, I would normally ask people where a good place to start for readers is, but I guess either or for pick up both of the books, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're, I think there are a fair amount, like, again, I have a hard time talking about genre
Mm.
because it stifles me. And yeah, that's a discussion, I guess. But I would say that if you're somebody who really enjoys like the journey, like the journey subgenre, End Realm is probably, the one to start with first.
Mhm.
Um, if you're looking for a quick read that, in my opinion, is very deep and it can be it's written to be very thought-provoking, uh,
Mhm.
than Skybreaker, I would say.
Yeah, they both so weird because they're completely different reading experiences, even like coming from like because you have a consistent style, but those stories are so completely different. But something I did say in my End Realm review, and I believe I've repeated this in my Skybreaker review as well, is that if you're someone that's a sort of character-driven reader like me, then they will love your work. And if they're people who really care about plot, they will love your work. You kind of like nailed both elements, which is really nice because I do tend to I d- I read a lot, obviously for review purposes, and I do find that a lot of people will fall into an either or character or plot kind of area, but you've you've kind of nailed everything. It just makes me so angry, Tyler, honestly. Unbelievable.
Do you want to know this? Do you want to know the secret?
Go on.
You got to sell your soul. It's as easy
Oh,
as that. Easy as
shit.
that. Sell
I
your soul, sign the dotted line.
well, I did that, and I've been polishing hooves and everything, and I just thought, but where are my riches? Is what I want to know. Okay, so in lieu of that question about where to start, because you can't go wrong, and you've only got like two sort of like main pieces out so far. I have another really important question. What is your zombie apocalypse survival plan?
Ooh. Um, Honestly,
Go
pack
on.
up my family and freaking fly to you. Because, I mean, all of those goddamn books that you've read on the zombie apocalypse. I mean, you are even if you're not going to wield the weapon, even if you're going to be the leader on the high chair,
Mhm.
pointing and saying what to do, like that's what's important, man. Like nobody knows it if Kaylee doesn't know it. So yeah, I'm packing bags, man. I'm flying to you.
That's an excellent answer, and rest assured that you will be okay because I've got a plan for slow zombies, running zombies, sort of body snatching extraterrestrial zombie. You've got to have several plans, is what I've learned through all of the zombie fiction. Okay, so I'm sad to have to wrap this up here, but we have hit an hour-ish now. I could keep you all night, but I won't. For anybody listening or watching that's interested, I will put the links for the books that we've talked about, and also I'll put your social media and everything, your links in the description there, Tyler, so people can track you down and then obsess about your books as much as I do. Is there anything that you would like to promote that you might have coming up? I know you've only just released Skybreaker, but if you have anything coming up, or if you can tell us a little bit about your next work, that would be great.
So I'm currently drafting my next full-length novel. It's it's going to be a pretty long one, I think. I think I'm only about a third of the way through. I'm planning it slash hoping that I'm finished with the first draft by Christmas,
Mhm.
and then sending it off to beta readers early next year. As much as I would like it to release next year, I think I'm going to try to find an agent. I think I'm going to query it.
Mhm.
Um, So, man, I really want a release next year. Maybe it'll end up being another novella. I'm not sure. But yes, I have a current work in progress. I don't know. I got to keep it under wraps. Maybe afterwards I can hint you off to something if you sell your soul and sign the dotted line that you won't say much. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, the biggest way that you can support me, for those, looking to do so is sign up for my newsletter. I
Mhm.
don't bother you too much. It's like maybe once every 2, 3 months, I throw you a newsletter. Um, Write reviews.
Mhm.
And that's not just me. Like, please, if you have a favorite indie author and you read their books, please write reviews, even if it's just a one sentence review. It like, man, it really is the best way to support your indie authors. So yeah, that's the best way to support me. I do want to give a quick shout out. There is this short story collection that I ran into. Maybe you know the author. It's Kaylee Dobbs, and she's gonna turn super red right now, probably. But this short story collection is fucking banger. And if you don't have it and you're watching this video and watch her videos on a weekly basis, then shame on you for not having it. So go get this because it is bloody brilliant.
Thank you. Yes, for people who like to like the end of the world as much as I do, you might enjoy that. Thank you, Tyler. You did not have to do that. I will go in red. Um, yes, yeah. Be sure to write reviews, everyone. I don't say that enough, but it really is the best way to help your favorite indie authors, even if it's one word. If you're doing an Amazon review, because Amazon's got a weird system for how it actually helps you, but it really isn't. It really, you don't have to write a novel on there when you're reviewing. Um, I always tell people when they review my work to just write good or shit, whatever. I don't, whatever they want to do. But yes, yeah. So I will put all of that in the description. Thank you again so much for doing this, Tyler. It's been really nice to actually speak to you and get to talk to the guy behind all of this awesome horror fiction that you've given me so far. And I can't wait for your next project. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, so am I. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Cool. Maybe we can get you back when your next thing is coming out, and we can do like a little special about specifically about your next book.
I'm game.
Cool. Right, well, we're going to sign off. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. I'm just I'm rambling because I'm trying to find the stop button because I still haven't adjusted to Zoom. Yeah, so we're going to just sign off with our usual goatee bleating of bleat.